I'm curious. A minute ago, you said if we got to the hotel and they had TNT, all hotels had TNT.
No, they didn't.
We would watch it. Who is we?
Me. I mean, whoever watched it.
I'm saying
I didn't share rooms, so I would go back and watch it in my hotel room. Sometimes Jerry Briscoe would come and join me. And
okay, but it's not like we're all going to go. We're all going to go to Vince's room and watch it. And
absolutely not.
Okay,
no.
all right. So here we are, the Thursday before the final Nitro, March 22nd. It's announced that the WWF had purchased WCW. That happens on the Torch website, and the Torch is who I used for all of my research this week. Shout out to my good friend, the Greensboro Jackoff himself, Mr. Bruce Mitchell. PWTorch.com is where you can see more great content like the stuff I'm going over today. The Wall Street Journal covered it the very next day on the 23rd. And supposedly, the executives and attorneys worked until the wee hours of that night on Thursday morning to get a short-form agreement in place. And the speculation at the time that was reported was that it was somewhere between $10 to $15 million. But in recent years, we've heard those numbers fluctuate, depending on who you ask, from $2 to $4 million. So before we talk about money, and you tell me we're not talking about money, tell me when you first knew for sure, hey, we're really a player in this thing, because it came out in January that you guys had made offers. But tell me about that, what you heard back then, maybe in November, December, January, and then when you knew in March, oh shit, this is a real thing.
Well, I found out it was a real thing probably that Tuesday or Wednesday before it happened.
What did you hear in late 2000, early January about Vince possibly making a bid?
I don't remember hearing anything serious at that time other than there were feelers put out there, but there were ridiculous numbers that were reported at that time.
50 to 80 million.
And he was not interested in that at all.
Sure. I mean, there's no sense in it.
No. The interest, just so it's clear, what we were interested in was if there was a possibility that it could remain on TNT, the time slot was interesting. Being on another network was interesting, and being able to take the brand and expand it on an already established time slot and already established network. So that was attractive at that time. When we found out that was not really going to be a possibility, it changed to the library.
So when did you know, hey, this is really going to happen? You said the Tuesday before.
Well, really, we didn't till it was done on that Wednesday night. And as you said, it did go into the wee hours, and that was Stu Snyder, who was the WWF CEO at the time. And Stu had previously worked for TBS. He worked for Cartoon Network.
Oh, wow, okay.
And Stu was the CEO, great guy. And during all this negotiation back and forth, the guys at TBS had reached out to Stu, because here we are, the largest wrestling company in the world, whether or not we were interested. Would we like to buy it?
Right.
And also looking to Stu for some advice on what they should do. And the offer came up, and then here we were.
That's kind of interesting. And I take it that they contacted him because if you're trying to unload this thing, who the fuck else even knows what to do with it?
Correct.
I mean, it's really a unique deal. So when do you first, you hear about it, and what does that sound like? What's Vince say?
Goddamn, pal. Well, okay, but let me rewind this too a little bit, just so you understand where we come from. When Vince bought a casino in Vegas, I'm sitting at home and get a phone call. Hey, pal, we bought a casino. What the hell? No one knew. No one even knew Vince was in Vegas. And he went out and bought the damn Debbie Reynolds casino. So there were, a lot of things, at times that
weren't discussed. It just happens.
Weren't discussed and just happened. And you're sitting there going, did you know that? And everybody's going, did you know that? Did you know that? And he would go off on a whim at times. Obviously, in his mind, he knew what he wanted to do and had a vision. And he did it. And that's the way that Vince operates. So to hear early on, well, yeah, we'll throw out a bid at WCW. You hear those things all the time. When I heard we're going to buy the restaurant there in Times Square, and we're going to have a WWF-themed restaurant. Goddamn, pal, it's going to be the WWF restaurant. It'll be bigger than Planet Hollywood, bigger than Hard Rock. And like, okay, great. Next thing you know, you're doing a grand opening in Times Square, the most expensive property in Manhattan. And so you're shocked constantly, but then you learn how not to be shocked. So it was just kind of another day at the office. Okay, we're going to buy WCW.
How does he tell you? Or, I mean, here's my question. In my head, he goes to a couple of confidants and says, hey, what do you think about this? He
asked what we thought about purchasing, possibly purchasing the brand.
Who is we?
We, I was a part of it. Stephanie, obviously, Shane, Kevin Dunn, Brian Gewirtz. I believe Michael Hayes was there. I don't know for sure. I don't remember. Paul Heyman was there. And
Wait. This is March. And yes. Heyman's there.
Yes, Heyman was
and
there.
He's involved in this meeting.
He was involved in it.
Now,
Vince wanted to pick his brain and see what he thought.
The reason that's shocking to me, he had just debuted as an announcer on Monday Night Raw. ECW had not yet even ceased operations and filed bankruptcy. That wouldn't happen until April. And he was in the meeting.
He was a part of the creative team at that time.
When Vince said, so he can, wait a minute. He walks in a creative meeting and says, what do y'all think about WCW?
Well, he pulled a few of us out and asked us, yeah.
And am I to guess that this is in the big conference room on the top floor?
No, this was actually at the television studio in the conference room there.
Okay. And so you guys are around a big table, and Vince is at the head, and he goes around the room and says, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think?
Pretty much.
So carry me through. What does Shane and Stephanie think?
They were for it and thought it would be a good idea. Again, it all depended upon what the conditions were, what the price was,
sure,
what we got for the price. And
at that point, you don't really know.
We had no clue.
Yeah,
we didn't have any clue other than the library was attractive.
Right.
The lure of having
the name, the brand, the logo.
The brand. It was like, okay, they've kicked our ass before. Maybe we can reposition the brand and build it to be viable again. So
you guys all have those type of discussions. Maybe we could make a show.
Sure.
Okay. So it's just a free form roundtable. What if?
Yeah, and I'm sure Vince has in his head what he wants to do.
But he just wants to hear.
He wants. Yeah, he's the kind. He'll take an idea from anybody. Carlos the janitor, doesn't matter.
What about Pat Patterson? What did he think?
Pat wasn't there.
Okay. What did Heyman think?
Well, sir, WCW is a dead brand. It's dead. And, he just, I don't know. He just kind of...
So he shit on the idea everybody else is pro.
Paul did kind of, yeah. Paul buried it. And
why?
I think in Paul's burial, I think that, and this is Bruce saying, this is not what Paul said, nor have I had any conversation with Paul. My interpretation of Paul's burial was that I think Paul felt that Vince should have done that with ECW. WCW is a dead brand, but ECW was a dead brand.
Do what with ECW? Invest millions of dollars.
Whatever money he was going to pay for WCW, take that same money, give it to keeping ECW alive. And that's my interpretation. That's my conjecture of what I kind of think that the underlying feeling.
I'm a huge ECW mark, as you know, but the number of eyeballs that saw and recognized WCW compared to ECW is two totally different animals.
True, but you had the owner of ECW sitting at the table.
Sure.
And Paul...
So Vince hears this and just knows to take it with a grain of salt.
But again, he wanted to listen. He was interested in Paul's opinion.
The most popular idea, though, kind of the common idea at the table is, let's give WCW a show and create our own competition with it. Try to redo something.
Yes.
So then the show, or the deal is made in the wee hours of the night. Is this something that we would have, there's the famous McDivitt. Would he have been involved in this, or is this not the group of attorneys that Vince would lean on for that?
No, this was more the in-house attorneys. Jerry might have been involved in it. I don't know. But it was mainly Stu and I believe Frank Serpy. I know Frank Serpy was involved in it. Frank Serpy was the head of the finance. I think he was the head at that time. Might have been Augie, might have been Frank, but I know Frank was involved in the transition.
Was there any gamesmanship to hiring a guy who used to work for Turner to be your CEO for WWF?
Stu?
Yeah.
He worked for Cartoon Network. I mean, it wasn't like he was in WCW or anything like that, but he was a bright guy. But
he's familiar with the inner workings of Turner Broadcasting.
Yeah, but that didn't matter at that point.
Well, I just didn't know.
No, it was he was
because he's not a wrestling guy.
No, he had a hell of a resume
for television.
A hell of a resume, yes, without a doubt.
I'm gonna ask because Roll Tide. The number that comes out at the time is 10 to 15 million, depending on who you ask. More recently, it's 2 to 4 million. Just nod up or down.
It sure as hell wasn't 10 to 15. How you like that? See, I just talk numbers with you.
Was it less than 4?
Yeah.
Okay. Was it more than 2?
Not telling you.
Okay. So it's less than 4.
It wasn't nearly as much as everybody thought.
When you hear the number, who do you hear it from?
Well, we didn't hear a number. You know what? I did not hear a number till after the fact, and was shocked. I was shocked because you'd been hearing all these huge numbers. You've been hearing about what Fusion, like I said, the $60 million, $80 million.
That's what I'm saying.
And you're thinking, oh my God, how much did we pay for this thing?
Right.
And then when you hear what the actual number was, and you go, wow, okay, cool, Roll Tide. I didn't say Roll Tide. That would be a misquote. Yeah. But that's what I would have said had I known you at that time. And
did you partly think, well, goddamn, pal, for that I would have bought it?
Sure.
I mean, that would not have been difficult to pull that kind of money together for a deal like that, I don't think.
No, not at all.
I mean, that's crazy. I mean, especially when you look at how much money went into the development of the network that we enjoy now for only $9.99 a month. This is a bargain.
Sure.